At the Bathhouse, A.P. Chekhov. "Hey, you there, fellow!" shouted a stout, fair-skinned gentleman, catching sight through the steam of a tall, lanky man with a thin beard and a large copper cross on his chest. "Add some steam. I'm not the bath attendant. Your Excellency, I am a barber, sir. It is not my business to tend the steam, but perhaps you would like me to set some cupping glasses for you." The stout gentleman stroked his crimson thighs, thought for a moment, and said, "Cups? Very well, set them. I am in no hurry." The barber ran to the dressing-room for his instruments, and in some 5 minutes, 10 dark circles from the cups appeared on the chest and back of the stout gentleman. "I remember you, Your Honor," the barber began, applying the 11th cup. "You were pleased to wash here last Saturday, and I trimmed your corns then as well. I am Mikhailo the barber. Do you remember, sir? At that time, you were also pleased to ask me about potential brides." "Ah, well, what of it?" "Nothing special, sir. I am fasting and preparing for communion now, so it is a sin for me to judge, Your Honor, but I cannot help but speak my mind. May God forgive me for my judgment, but the brides nowadays have become quite good for nothing, quite senseless. A bride of the old days wanted to marry a man who was solid, strict, with capital, a man who could discuss anything and remembered his religion. But the modern one is lured by education. Give her an educated man. If you show her a government official or someone from the merchant class, she will only laugh. But education comes in different sorts. One educated man, of course, will rise to a high rank, but another will sit as a lowly scribe all his life, with nothing left to pay for his own funeral. There are plenty of such types nowadays. One of them comes here, an educated one, a telegraphist. He has mastered everything. He can even compose telegrams, yet he washes without soap. It is a pitiful sight. "Poor but honest," a raspy bass voice called out from the upper bench. One should be proud of such people. Education, joined with poverty, bears witness to the high qualities of the soul. "You ignoramus!" Mikhailo looked askance at the upper bench. There sat a thin man, striking himself with a birch bundle. He was so gaunt he seemed to consist of nothing but skin and ribs. His face was hidden by long, damp hair hanging down. Only 2 eyes were visible, full of malice and contempt, fixed upon Mikhailo. One of those, the long-haired ones. Mikhailo winked, full of ideas. A terrible number of such folk have cropped up lately. You couldn't catch them all. Look at him, skeleton with his hair all loose. Any Christian conversation is loathsome to him, just like incense to the devil. Sticking up for education, is he? That is exactly the kind the modern bride loves. Precisely that kind, Your Excellency. Isn't it disgusting? Last autumn, a priest's daughter called for me. "Find me a groom, Michel," she says. "They call me Michel in the fine houses because I style the ladies' hair. Find me, Michel, a groom who is a writer." And as luck would have it, I knew one. He used to frequent Porfiry Emelyanitch's tavern and was always threatening to expose everyone in the newspapers. A man would come to him to ask for money for vodka, and he would give him a box on the ear at once. "What? Money from me? Do you know who I am? Do you know I can print in the papers that you have ruined your soul?" A wretched, ragged fellow he was. I lured him with the priest's money, showed him the young lady's portrait, and brought him over. I even rented a suit for him, but the lady didn't like him. "There is too little melancholy in his face," she says. "She doesn't even know what on earth she wants." That is a slander against the press. The raspy bass came again from the same bench. "Trash. Me trash? Humph. You are lucky, sir, that I am fasting this week. Otherwise, I would have a word or two for your trash. So, you're one of those writers too, I take it. Though I'm not a writer, do not dare speak of what you do not understand. There have been many writers in Russia who brought great benefit. They enlightened the land, and for that very reason, we must treat them with honor, not mockery. I speak of writers both secular and spiritual. Spiritual persons would not occupy themselves with such matters. You are an unlearned man. You cannot understand. Saint Demetrius of Rostov, Innocent of Kherson, Philaret of Moscow, and other holy hierarchs of the Church contributed greatly to enlightenment through their writings. Mikhailo glanced sideways at his opponent, shook his head, and gave a grunt. "Well, you're getting a bit too intellectual there, sir," he muttered, scratching the back of his head. "A bit too much brain work. No wonder your hair is like that. No wonder. We understand all this very well, and we shall soon show you what kind of man you are. You just stay there with those cups on you, your honor, and I will be back in a moment. I just have to step out." Mikhailo, pulling up his wet trousers as he went and loudly slapping his bare feet on the floor, stepped out into the dressing room. "A long-haired fellow will be coming out of the bath shortly," he said to the lad standing behind the counter selling soap. "So you will keep an eye on him. He's stirring up the folk, full of ideas. Someone should run for Nazar Zakharich. Go tell the boys. A long-haired fellow will be coming out here soon," Mikhailo whispered, turning to the boys standing by the clothes. "He's stirring up the folk. Keep an eye on him and run to the mistress. Tell her to send for Nazar Zakharich. We need to draw up a report. He's saying all sorts of things, full of ideas." "What long-haired fellow?" the boys asked, alarmed. "No one like that undressed here. Only 6 people in total. There are 2 totters, the gentleman who just undressed, 2 merchants, and the deacon. That's all. You must have taken Father Deacon for a long-haired radical. You're making it up, you devils. I know what I'm saying." Mikhailo looked at the deacon's clothes, touched the cassock with his hand, and shrugged his shoulders. An expression of extreme bewilderment spread across his face. "And what does he look like?" "Thin, a bit fair-haired, hardly any beard, always coughing." "Umph," Mikhailo muttered. "Umph. That means I've been barking at a member of the clergy. What a mess. Oh, what a sin. What a sin. And I'm fasting, brothers. How am I to go to confession now, if I've offended a holy man? Lord, forgive me, a miserable sinner. I must go and beg his pardon." Mikhailo scratched the back of his head and, putting on a mournful face, returned to the bath. Father Deacon was no longer on the upper bench. He was standing below by the taps, his legs spread wide, pouring water into a wooden tub. "Father Deacon!" Mikhailo addressed him in a tearful voice. "Forgive me, for Christ's sake, wretch that I am." "Forgive you for what?" Mikhailo took a deep breath and bowed low at the deacon's feet. "For the fact that I thought you had ideas in your head. I'm truly amazed that your daughter, with all her beauty and innocent behavior, hasn't married yet," said Nikodem Yegorich Petichkin, climbing up to the top bench. Nikodem Yegorich was naked, as any naked man would be, but on his bald head he wore a cap. Fearing a rush of blood to the head and an apoplectic stroke, he always steamed himself wearing his cap. His companion, Makar Tarasych Peshkin, a little old man with thin, bluish legs, shrugged his shoulders in response and said, "She hasn't married because God shortchanged me on character. I am far too humble and meek, Nikodem Yegorich, and nowadays you get nowhere with meekness. The suitors today are a fierce lot. You must deal with them accordingly." "What do you mean, fierce? From what point of view?" "They are spoiled, Nikodem Yegorich. How should one handle them? You need firmness. There's no room for shyness with them. Drag them before magistrate. give them a slap in the face, send for the local constable. That's the way. A worthless lot. A trivial people. The two friends lay down side by side on the top bench and began working their birch bundles. Worthless, Makar Tarasych continued. I've suffered enough from those scoundrels. If I had a more solid character, my Dasha would have been married long ago and would be bearing children. Yes, to be honest, sir, among the female sex nowadays, old maids make up half the lot, 50%. And mark my words, Nikodem Yegoryk, every one of those girls had suitors in their younger years. So why didn't they marry, you ask? For what reason? Because the parents couldn't hold on to the groom. They let him wiggle out of it. That is true, sir. The modern man is spoiled, foolish, and full of free thinking. He loves to get everything for nothing and turn a profit besides. He won't take a step for you for free. You give him a good time, and he demands money from you in return. Well, and he doesn't marry without a motive either. If I marry, he thinks I'll rake in the cash. That wouldn't be so bad. Eat, gorge yourself, take my money, just marry my child, do me that kindness. But sometimes, even with money, you end up weeping and enduring a world of misery. One fellow will come courting and courting, but as soon as it reaches the sticking point, the wedding crown, he turns his carriage around and goes courting someone else. It's a fine thing to be a suitor of pure pleasure. They feed him, they give him drink, they lend him money. What a life. So, he plays the role of a groom until his dying day. He has a bald patch across his whole head. He's entirely gray. His knees are buckling, but he's still a suitor. And then there are those who don't marry out of pure stupidity. A foolish man doesn't know what he wants, so he keeps picking. This is no good. That is not right. He wanders around, courting and courting, and then suddenly, for no reason at all, I cannot, he says, and I do not wish to. Take, for example, Mr. Katavasov, Dasha's first suitor, a gymnasium teacher, a titular counselor as well. He learned all the sciences, French, German, a mathematician, but in the end, he turned out to be a blockhead, a foolish man, and nothing more. Are you sleeping, Nikodem Yegoryk? No, why would I be? I merely closed my eyes from the pleasure. Well then, he started calling on my Dasha. And you must note, Dasha wasn't even 20 years old then. She was a girl to behold, simply a wonder to everyone. A real prize, plump, well-formed, and all that. State Councilor Tsitsernov Gravinsky, who serves in the church administration, crawled on his knees for her to be a governess for him. She wouldn't have it. Katavasov began visiting us. He'd come every day and sit until midnight, talking to her about various sciences and physics. He'd bring her books, listen to her music. He put all his weight on the books. My Dasha is educated enough as it is. She doesn't need books at all. They're just a distraction. But he'd insist, read this, read that. He bored her death. I could see he loved her. And she, noticeably, didn't mind him much. I don't like him, she says, only because he isn't a military man, Papa. He wasn't military, but still he was decent. He had a rank. He was a gentleman, well-fed, sober. What more could one want? He proposed. We gave our blessing. He didn't even ask about the dowry. Not a word. As if he weren't a man at all, but some disembodied spirit who could live without a dowry. We even set the wedding day. And what do you think? 3 days before the wedding, this very Katavasov comes to my shop. His eyes are red. His face is pale, as if from a fright, and he's shaking all over. What is your business, sir? I ask. Forgive me, Makar Tarasych, he says, but I cannot marry Darya Makarovna. I was mistaken. he says, gazing upon her blooming youth and innocence. I thought to find in her a spiritual freshness, so to speak, but she has already managed to acquire tendencies, he says. She's inclined toward finery. He says she knows nothing of labor. She has sucked it in with her mother's milk, and I don't even remember what else she supposedly sucked in. He's talking, and he's crying. And what about me? I only gave him a scolding, my dear sir, and let him go. I didn't go to the magistrate. I didn't complain to his superiors. I didn't shame him before the town. Had I gone to the magistrate, he would likely have feared the scandal and married her. His superiors wouldn't have cared what she had sucked in. If you've let a girl on, then marry her. Now, take Clyacin the merchant. Ever heard of him? Though he's a simple fellow, look at the stunt he pulled. His daughter's groom also began to balk. Notice something he didn't like in the dowry. So Clyacin leads him into the storeroom, locks the door, pulls a big revolver from his pocket, loaded with bullets, mind you, and says, "Swear upon the icon that you'll marry her, or else I'll kill you this very minute. You scoundrel." This very minute, the lad swore the oath and got married. You see? But I wouldn't be capable of that. I'm not even one for a scuffle. Then Bryazdenko, a consistory clerk, caught sight of my Dasha. From the church administration as well. He saw her and fell in love. He'd follow her around, red as a beet, muttering various words, his breath hot as a furnace. By day he'd sit at our house, and by night he'd pace under the windows. And Dasha fell for him too. She liked his little Russian eyes. They have fire and black night in them, she says. He hung around and finally proposed. Dasha was, you might say, in a state of rapture and delight. She gave her consent. Understand, Papa, she says, that he isn't a military man, but he is from the church administration, which is just as good as the commissariat, and that is why I love him so. A young girl, and yet she's already sorting things out. The commissariat? The clerk inspected the dowry, haggled with me, and only wrinkled his nose. He agreed to everything, just wanted the wedding as soon as possible. But on the very day of the betrothal, he took one look at the guests and suddenly grabbed his head. Good heavens, he cries. Look how many relatives they have. I don't agree. I cannot. I will not. And away he went. I tried this and that. Have you lost your mind, Your Honor? I asked. It's more of an honor to have many relatives. He wouldn't agree. He snatched his hat and was gone. There was another case, too. Elielayev, a forest warden, proposed to my Dasha. He loved her for her mind and her conduct, and Dasha loved him back. She liked his steady character. He was indeed a good, noble man. He proposed in a very thorough manner. He inspected every detail of the dowry, rummaged through all the trunks, and even scolded Matryona because she hadn't protected the police from moths. He even brought me an inventory of his own property. A noble man. It would be a sin to say anything ill of him. I liked him, I must admit, exceedingly. He haggled with me for 2 months. I offered him 8,000, but he asked for 8.5. We haggled and haggled. We'd sit down at tea, drink 15 glasses each, and keep on haggling. I raised my offer by 200. He wouldn't take it, so we parted over a mere 300 rubles. He left. Poor fellow, and he was weeping. He loved Dasha so much. I blame myself now. Miserable sinner that I am. I truly do. I should have just given him those 300, or frightened him, or shamed him before the whole town, or led him into a dark room and given him a slap. I missed my chance, I see it now. I played the fool. Nothing can be done. Nikodem Yegorich. I have a quiet character, very meek indeed. That is true, sir. Well, I'll be going, it's time. My head has grown heavy. Nikodem Yegorek gave himself one last stroke with a birch bundle and climbed down. Makar Tarasych sighed and began to swing his bundle even more vigorously.